This is a dark time for Naruto Shinobi Striker. If you didn't know, Shinobi Striker on PlayStation, their most popular platform, has been on maintenance since last Thursday, which was not only DLC day with a new Shisui, but also the game's anniversary event. And at the time of this recording, it's still down. It's been almost a week, and I honestly feel for them. Players are pissed right now, but I'm sure no one wants to see the servers up more than the developers themselves. They are aware, and they're working on it, so I'm not gonna give them a hard time about it in this video. I am gonna give them a hard time about this DLC, though. What the hell? We've been on an upwards trend. The DLC for Shinobi Striker has been better and better every time. Well, Shisui is here to stop that. First of all, why Shisui? I mean, the character's cool, don't get me wrong, but a second Shisui was not in my bingo card. The more I play this DLC, the more it sounds like it's a budget issue. But let's take a look at everything he brings to the game, and let's see if you agree with me. First of all, when you buy the DLC, you get a new outfit, which is both top and bottom, and I think it looks sick. And you also get a new hairstyle. And of course, you get Shisui's jutsu, but he also brings a new ninja tool to the game, so we gotta start there. Uchiha Shuriken Jutsu Infiltration Shadow is a ninja tool that can be used by every single class type, and it can be used in two different ways, even though it's all the same button. And that's because if you hit someone with this and you're kind of close to them, you will actually teleport to them and be able to act immediately. So you can use this to engage or to extend combos. It is super sick. But it can also be used at a distance because after traveling for a while or after it misses an opponent, it also turns into many different shuriken which act like a normal projectile. So it kind of just splits up and hits them. So you can use it as a close combat tool or a long-range combat tool. And with a 7-second cooldown, I thought this was absolutely sick. Plus, you can use it with all classes. This is hands down the best thing Shisui brings to the game. And now that I've covered the ninja tool, I can finally say, holy crap, this character sucks! Like, the ninja tool is the only good thing. Everything else is either bad or has some weird caveat to it. Like, if you're gonna revisit Shisui, you better have a good idea for the character. And it really feels like they didn't have a good idea for this guy, other than, we'll make him a defense type, I guess. It feels like they needed a DLC character where they already had the character model in game, so they didn't need to spend any money doing that, and then recycled as many assets as they possibly could, making his jutsu. I don't know if they're busy making the custom matches. I hope that's the case, because otherwise it just means that these guys have committed to another season of content with no budget. Looking at the rest of the updates this game got, though, it does feel like a budget issue. For instance, this is not about the character, but this is the new defense type SS Plus weapon. That's just him hitting the triangle button there. How are you doubling down on the pay-to-win weapons? Turn back! It's not too late, please! But let's break down these jutsu so you can see what I mean. First up, Susano'o Tsukumo. It summons the Susanoo that protects the user, and then you press the button again to fire needles at the opponent. And the needles deal more damage if your Susanoo has blocked some attacks while protecting you, which sounds really cool in theory. In practice, unless you're playing against bots, no one's gonna attack your Susanoo. I stand by what I said. Now, you can target any player you want before the second activation. Your Susanoo will just turn around and face that player and shoot them with needles, which are unblockable. So this can be a good jutsu to force your way in, but it also has way too many counters. You know how every time a new character comes out, I break down their jutsu, and lately most characters are able to counter stuff like Water Pillar or Sand Shield. Well, this Susanoo loses to all of those counters too. Some can simply delete it if it's something like the Rasen Shuriken. Others can actually hit you inside the Susanoo. And because you're forced to stand still, you are very vulnerable to ultimate attacks. This makes the Susanoo feel less like the ultimate Uchiha jutsu and more like an action figure that you bought on Wish. Now, the jutsu is mid, whatever. I don't think that is super offensive. It's trying something new, I guess, but I also think the design of the jutsu itself, the idea behind it, is goddamn awful. Because they wanted you to summon a Susanoo that protects the character. That means that if you run this jutsu, you're often just staring at the back of this Susanoo. I can't even see my opponents. The only way I have of knowing that the needles are hitting them is because of the combo counter. So yeah, I think this was just very uninspired top to bottom. But let's move on to the next jutsu, Genjutsu Sharingan. It grants Sharingan mode to you and your allies around you, and if someone attacks you, they might get hit with some big Genjutsu. So to break this down, let's talk about Kakashi. When this game came out, Kakashi had the Sharingan ability, which lets him automatically substitute out of an enemy attack after he activates it. This has been in the base game since launch. This ability from Shisui kinda does that, but applies it to the entire team around him. Now, that sounds overpowered, but it has a couple of downsides. One, it just doesn't last as long, so you can easily wait it out. And two, the cooldown is bigger, 25 seconds instead of 19. Now, that's a good trade-off, in my opinion. Shorter duration, but bigger cooldown that applies it to everyone. But there's also a bonus to it, because if someone hits you, you don't just substitute out, you also send a phantom that will trap them in Genjutsu. If you're on the receiving end, it looks like this. You hit your opponent, oh my god, a ghost! And then Susanoo bonks you. But you only see this if you're on the receiving end of it. The player running the jutsu just sees this. What the hell? I thought I paid for the DLC. Why is he getting all the cool stuff? This jutsu also has a couple of counters, but not too many. I mean, other than just waiting for it to run out, of course. Youthful Roar straight up disables the substitution. It deletes Sharingan mode. But also, if you see your opponent activating it, you don't need to run a counter. You can just throw a projectile to trigger it and then dodge the Phantom. The Phantom is pretty fast, so if he catches someone by surprise, it's hard to dodge. But if you know it's coming, it's not that difficult. I also think the jutsu is hella inconsistent. For instance, I don't know what happened here. Why did the jutsu trigger, but Naruto didn't get hit by the Genjutsu? I got a ton of examples like this. Like, why did paralysis not trigger the Genjutsu in this case? It's not because paralysis is a counter. We tried it again. It worked the second time, so what the hell? And because of this inconsistency and the short duration, I still think that Obito's Uchiha Flame Formation is going to be the go-to if you're trying to protect your whole team. Now, the Genjutsu part, it doesn't deal a lot of damage on its own, but it could be useful for setting something else up since it stuns the opponent for a while. But this is also what I meant by having a lot of recycled content in this DLC, because one, the Sharingan effect is straight up copied, it just applies to the entire party, that's the difference. And if the Phantom hits the opponent, they have the exact same animation as Tsukuyomi. And don't get me wrong, there are some new animations here, namely the ones that your opponent sees, but it still feels like a jutsu that is stitched together by two previously existing jutsu, and that just feels like a cheap cop-out to me. So let's talk about his ultimate. Hopefully it will redeem this DLC somehow. Perfect Susano Kishin. Susano jumps into the sky and comes back down wherever you aim, and then spawns beams of light around that area, damaging opponents. If you've ever played Overwatch, this is the Doomfist ultimate, and I think that's awesome. This is a great ultimate, definitely the redeeming factor of this DLC. You get it pretty fast, sometimes you can get it twice in a match, and it's great for crowd control. Even if the initial hit doesn't take out anyone, the pillars of light are pretty annoying for the enemies to fight around. Plus, you can actually activate this from a distance and then travel with the Susano, and after the Susano dives, you'll be back to where you summoned the ultimate to begin with, so it can be extremely safe to use. Except this is a bit buggy, or just really poorly built. Because when you activate it, the camera goes cinematic, follows you into the sky, and then whoa, ho, ho, what just happened? And this is annoying, because you have a limited amount of time before you have to select where you are landing, and it takes you a second to figure out where the hell you are. For some reason, it always turns the camera around. Like, I don't like it. I've seen mods that don't break the game as hard as this ultimate does, so yeah, it does need some fixing, and again, just makes me think this DLC was put together with the budget of a browser game. I think they really dropped the ball with this DLC, but here's the Shisui card. The ultimate and ninja tool might make it worth it, but the jutsu, they're just not it, bro. And that's why I think this DLC is disappointing, because Shinobi Striker was on such a good upswing. It was banger DLC after banger DLC, and then this guy comes out and it's like, okay, a repeat character and you didn't even have a good idea for him. That's a shame. But that's the new Shisui DLC review. Sorry this was late. I actually had to start the game from scratch on the PC to bring you this video since PlayStation is still down. So I had to unlock a bunch of VR masters before I was able to properly test this jutsu. I also learned that apparently player invites have been broken on PC since the Gara DLC. Like, what the hell? Is everyone asleep over there? That was months ago. Fix this, please. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the review, and if you've missed the last one, it was the attack type jutsu with the two tails. You can check that out right here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.